It's time again for Northwestern Outdoors Radio, the show covering fishing, hunting, and all sorts of outdoor recreation and destinations right here in the region you live and play in. Northwestern Outdoors is brought to you every week by Max Lure Company, makers of the world-famous wedding ring spinner, by Loophole, America's Optics Authority, and by Sportsman's Warehouse, America's premier outfitter. Northwestern Outdoors is also sponsored by Wallowa County in Northeast Oregon, where you'll find both nature and fun. By Chad's Coastwide Sports Fishing, offering you the affordable Canadian fishing trip of a lifetime. And by Camp Chef, the way to cook outdoors. So grab your fishing rod or hunting gear, load up the boat or lace up your boots, and let's head outdoors with your host, John Cruz.
Welcome to the show. I am very happy and humbled to report Northwestern Outdoors Radio received several Excellence in Craft Awards for outstanding audio work produced in the last year. The organizations that bestowed these honors on us are the Outdoor Writers Association of America, which features outdoors media pros from all over the country, not just the U.S., but Canada as well, and the Northwest Outdoor Writers Association with members across the greater Northwest to include British Columbia and Alaska. We'll be sharing these interviews with you on this edition of Northwestern Outdoors. Each one is a segment I'm very proud to share with you, especially given the fact that they were recognized as the best of the best when it comes to outdoors radio in the Northwest or the nation. We'll start off talking to Steve Fleming, the longtime owner of Maha Outfitters, about fishing North Central Oregon's scenic John Day River for bass and steelhead. Steve is a great guy to spend a day in a drift boat with, and you won't go away hungry from the experience either. This interview received the first place award in the audio category from the Northwest Outdoor Writers Association. We'll chat with Bobby Loomis after that about how to catch big kokanee anywhere you want to fish for them during an extended Max Minute, and then we'll join Jennifer Jarrett for an incredible segment that won first place in the entire nation from the Outdoor Writers Association of America in the nature conservation category. Jennifer works in Yellowstone National Park, cataloging the sounds of nature, and we'll be sharing those sounds from Yellowstone with you today. The final award-winning interview we'll share with you this broadcast came about during a hike to Lost Lake in Montana last summer. Lisa Densmore Ballard took several outdoors riders up there for a fabulous hike just a few miles away from Red Lodge, and the experience, along with Lisa's description of it, caught lakeside, netted us a third-place national award in the outdoor adventure category. We also won a third-place national award in the fishing category, too. That was for a compilation of interviews we did during an epic fishing adventure we enjoyed out of Port Hardy, British Columbia, with Chad Calder, owner of Chad's Coastwide Sports Fishing, for salmon, halibut, and more. But since we don't have time to share that today, we will be sharing that with you in another broadcast in the very near future. Chad's Coastwide Sports Fishing is the sponsor of Sportsman Spotlight. This segment comes to us from the Ag Information Network of the West, and host David Sparks does a great job of covering the fishing, hunting, and outdoor scene. A case in point, the segment you're about to hear right now.
What is the meaning of road hogs? David Sparks, Sportsman Spotlight. As most of you Sportsman Spotlight regular listeners know, I love to catch up with Field and Stream's senior deputy editor, Colin Kearns, on a regular basis to find out what's going on seasonally in this fabulous outdoorsman's magazine. An article appeared in the June issue. It said thrill rides followed by road hogs. Road hogs?
Road hogs. This is a story we love doing each year. It's about fishing road trips, and our thinking is, come summer, what's better than loading the truck up with a bunch of fishing tackle and camping gear and just hitting the road for a few days. So what we've done is we've plotted, I think, 5 or 6 fishing road trips all across the country. We've got one that takes you through the Continental Divide, one in the Southwest, one along the East Coast around the Outer Banks, and each one is packed with great fishing tips and fun tour stuff you can do with the family, and it's just a great way way to spend the summer.
It says comfortable camping and some killer grub.
Yeah, that's right. We've got some good recipes and restaurant recommendations in there as well, so you don't go hungry as you're fishing your way across the country.
Yeah. And here's my favorite part, Hop Happy Breweries. Wow, what a reason to go fishing.
Yeah. Exactly, yeah. Just make sure you have a designated driver. But, yeah, we've got some good places to celebrate a trophy catch, I guess, if you will.
Nice. Okay. Go to Sportsman Spotlight on our website, aginfo.net, and you'll see a listing of all those great trips. Enjoy.
A quality and affordable fishing adventure is waiting for you off Vancouver Island with Chad's Coastwide Sports Fishing. Located in Port Hardy, British Columbia, you can drive or fly to your all-inclusive guided fishing vacation. Whether you're after big salmon, heart-fighting halibut, or a cooler full of red snapper and lingcod, you can catch it all here. Better yet, your lodging, meals, and fish processing are all taken care of. Want one more reason to go? The price. With the Canadian dollar exchange rate where it is right now, your U.S. dollar goes further. Space is limited, so go to coastwidesportsfishing.com to book your trip. That's coastwidesportsfishing.com for an incredible BC fishing adventure.
If you're after really big game, it only makes sense to have the best scope you can put on your rifle. That's why you want the Leupold VX6 HD. This high-definition scope gives you sharpened clarity, and the Twilight Max light management system gives you the sight advantage you need at dawn and dusk when those big bucks, bulls, and Bruins are on the move. Add on our lifetime gold ring guarantee, and you've got the rifle scope of your dreams. It's the Leupold VX6 HD. Look for it at a quality sporting goods store near you and at leupold.com.
Next up on Northwestern Outdoors Radio, we're heading down to the John Day River in Oregon. That's where Steve Fleming, the longtime owner of Maha Outfitters, has been fishing for steelhead lately. Steve, welcome to the show.
Hey, good morning to you. How's it going?
It's going well. How has the steelhead fishing been? I've been seeing some nice pictures.
I'm glad you asked. I'm having probably my best year ever, and because I'm probably getting smarter, but I think there's more fish. We're averaging about 2.5 fish landed per day per person. And the fish have been exceptionally large this year. Bigger fish, way bigger fish.
You know, that's really surprising because a lot of anglers in the Northwest have been struggling with low steelhead returns this year. So good to hear that the returns on the John Day have been pretty good.
It really appeared to be. I mean, day before yesterday, we had 10 takedowns before lunch. Now, that's my best day so far this year, but even still, it was just like, wow. And I only had one angler.
Wow.
And if I'd had more rods, more bobbers in the water, I don't know what would have happened, but we had quite a day.
Well, and that brings up my next point. How are you catching the fish? Are you using jigs under slip bobbers?
It's all bobber and jig or bobber and coon shrimp. That's the best way to get after them because I can cover so much more water so fast that way. And it's so much better on the fish because you get all the lip hooks and you don't have any big problems with deep hooking or anything then.
And what color jigs do you prefer on the John Day? Because every river seems to have their own special color.
Well, this year the John Day has been pretty much gin clear water all season. My first trip was October 12th, and we nailed 7 fish that day, and it was clear water. And yesterday was clear water again, and it's been a little up and down. And I mean very little up and down, too. The water's still kind of low, but it's been really clear water. So clear water, drives you towards Fisher's old 8-ounce jig with the purple and the red head on it is still a hot item on the jigs. Yakima bait makes a phenomenal look-alike to that, and they offer it in 1/4 ounce with a checkered jig head on it, which is like their corkies. And I've had probably some of my best luck with the Yakima ones, actually. They put a little flashaboo in theirs that sticks out about maybe an inch and a half longer than the rest of the marabou. And when you put that in the water, it looks like the tail of something. And I mean, it really does well for me anyway. And that's a good one to use, is that particular color. But that's because the water's clear also.
Interesting.
And so that typically is what I have here on the John Day is clear water. And then on the coon shrimp, I had a client turn me on to these last year, and loony coonies are the best. There's just no getting around it. They are absolutely the best shrimp I have ever seen in my life. And he ships them. I buy the pint size, and depending upon the size you buy of the jar determines the size of the shrimp. And that's the ones that I like. They're $20 a pint, which scares you, but he's got them packed in there. I mean, that thing is absolutely full right up to the top, and he ships out of Richfield, Washington, overnight delivery. The best shrimp I've ever used.
All right. And what color are the shrimp?
Well, they're only one color, and they're like a red-maroon type color.
Sure.
And kind of a purplish red-maroon type color. And all I can tell you is, ever since I started using them, my numbers have definitely gone up. There's been no question about it.
Wow, nice to hear. So the John Day River, definitely one of the most scenic rivers you're going to fish in the Northwest. What section are you fishing for steelhead this time of year?
Well, right now I'm fishing down at the Cottonwood Bridge area, and that's River Mile 41. And so from there on down, there's some opportunities. I think what most people forget, as I watch them fish anyway, is that the fish are moving 7 miles a day upriver. And so if you pull into a spot that's really good to fish, like maybe you're fly fishing and swing fishing, and it's really working well, but you're not catching anything, you probably should just stay there.
Interesting.
Because if it's working well and covering the water good, just stay there, because you're going to get fish moving through that day probably. But I see them moving all the time. I didn't get anything there. That hole's fished out. Well, it doesn't work that way, because they're not homebodies like the smallmouth bass are. These fish are migratory, and they're moving up the system every day. And that would be the biggest thing I see people doing wrong. And there's lots of places around the Cottonwood State Park there at Cottonwood Bridge. I mean, gee whiz, there's really good trails for 5 miles below the bridge and 2.5 miles above the bridge. There's a lot of holes, and can accommodate a lot of fishermen, actually, and I don't see that many people, to be honest with you.
It's funny you say that, because I love going to Cottonwood State Park and hiking those very trails. When I go, in fact, I've seen you out there before, I'm going for smallmouth bass, but there's some really nice holes there that are good steelhead holes. So, folks, if you want to do it on your own, head to Cottonwood State Park and lace up your hiking boots and head on out, because there's lots of water to fish and definitely no crowds. But, Steve, one of the advantages going with you is, A, you're covering a lot of water, B, you've got the expert knowledge, and C, if you go all day with you, you serve up some really delicious meals, Dutch oven style.
Well, thank you for that compliment, but, it's my 27th season, and I quit burning meals a few years ago, and so it's been pretty good since then. I got some good recipes. They have an option to choose from: pork roast, pot roast, chicken and rice, lasagna, macaroni, cheese with sausage in it. And so they can also choose one meal for me to cook for the whole boat that day anyway. So, yeah, it works out good. Nice, especially the last few days. It's been cold out there for this year so far, and so it's kind of nice to have a hot meal.
Well, I'll tell you what, Steve. I think it's probably been about 10 years since you and I went fishing, but I still have vivid memories and tell folks all the time about, going down the river in the drift boat and just smelling that Dutch oven in the boat as the food's cooking, and you are ravenous. By the time it is ready and you pull off to the gravel bar, you are so hungry, and that food is so delicious.
Well, thank you. We had a good trip. I think we named a new setup that day, didn't we? We caught some nice fish on smile blades, as I remember that particular trip on the smallmouth bass trip.
We did, and you got me into my first 4+ pound smallmouth, so for that I'm grateful.
Well, you were a good fisherman. I had to hold you back a little bit.
Right. Only on radio can you get away with something like that. So, one other thing we need to talk about here, steelhead season's going to go all the way into March, but after that, you have phenomenal smallmouth bass fishing that you offer.
Yes, it's been good for me. Everything last year, they changed the regulations, of course, on the Columbia, the John Day, and the Umpqua, and I wasn't sure what would happen, but it actually didn't change my numbers at all, because where I'm fishing at, they have to have a boat to get in there anyway, and so the extra catching and keeping didn't seem to show up at all. We actually had one guy go over 200 fish in one day last year. So
wow.
I gave out as many 100+ club pins as I did in the previous year. So, and we had nice fish. We caught a lot of really bigger fish last year. There's a good crawdad population in the river, and since the 2011 high water flooding, they've come back really good, and so the fish are definitely growing well with the crawdad population. So.
And I guess that's something we need to talk about here. The crawdads, a lot of those are invasive. They're not native crawdads, are they?
Yeah, everything has the good and the bad in it. And it's been over 10 years ago now that the high school down in Mount Vernon, Oregon, which sits right on the John Day River, they had some leftover rusty crawfish from their biology class. Nobody knows the exact number, but maybe they dumped maybe 200 of them in the river just as a kind thought gesture at the end of their biology season with the crawdads. Wow. Those are about 125 miles downriver now, and they are extra prolific. And the only downside of it is that they probably would eventually diminish the native crawdads. But quite honestly, since the 96, 97 flood, we hadn't hardly seen any crawdads around. The rusty crawfish, are they prolific, and they're big. They get to be almost 6 inches long.
Wow.
And they actually have a wide tail, so big protein source. And they are definitely lending to the bigger smallmouth bass because they're eating them.
Well, Steve, we are out of time, but before we go, we need to steer folks to Baja Outfitters' website so people can book a trip for you or with you, whether it be for steelhead or for smallmouth bass. Let's give out the website.
Okay, the website's pretty simple. It's, www.johndayriverfishing.com.
That's johndayriverfishing.com. Steve has been doing this for a long time. Great guide, great host, and, oh yes, a great chef too. Give him a try. You are going to have a great time on the John Day River, and the steelhead fishing there is probably the best you're going to find in the Northwest right now. Steve, thanks for telling us all about this on Northwestern Outdoors Radio.
Thank you, my friend. Look forward to seeing you again on my boat.
You're back with more of the great outdoors on Northwestern Outdoors Radio with John Cruz.
It's time for another Max Minute.
Fish on!
Brought to you every week by Max Lure Company. With us again, Bobby Loomis, Sales Director for Max Lure Company. Bobby, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, John.
Bobby, last week we talked about the huge kokanee in Flaming Gorge Reservoir near the border of Utah and Wyoming. On average, they're about 2 pounds. They get all the way to 6 pounds. When it comes to targeting big kokanee versus regular 7 to 11-inch kokanee, is there a difference in presentation that you recommend?
When you start talking about targeting big fish, you're talking about a total different style of fishing, number one. And number two, you need to utilize different types of products. When you're talking about those large fish, they don't get large by just eating plankton. They will eat small fish. So you're talking about a total different style of fishing versus a wedding ring and a flashlight or something of that nature.
So, if you were after big kokanee with Max Lure products, what would you use?
I would use more reactionary type products because of the fact that that whole reactionary thing and the large fish are not schooled. So you're out targeting, peripheral stuff on larger schools, or you're fishing a certain area where there are a few fish.
Give me one lure to use for big kokanee.
Boy, that's tough. We got a lot of good ones. The Pee-wee Wiggle Hoochie, probably.
All right. And we're out of time, so we're sticking with that. It's the Pee-wee Wiggle Hoochie. Try it next time you want to go after the real big kokanee in a lake near you, whether it's Flaming Gorge Reservoir or Lake Roosevelt in Washington, or where the kokanee are getting big again, Wallowa Lake in Northeast Oregon. Find out more at a sporting goods store near you or at maxlure.com.
Want to go fishing and make money? You are in luck. This year's Pike Minnow Sport Reward Fishery kicks off May 1st. Just register at a check station and go fishing for 9-inch or longer northern pike minnow within designated waters of the Columbia or Snake River. Then you bring your fish back and collect a voucher good for a cash reward. The more fish you catch, the more they're worth. $5, $6, and $8 per fish. Catch a pike minnow with a special tag and you've landed $500. Find out more at pikeminnow.org. That's pikeminnow.org.
The Sling Blade is Max Lure Company's latest dodger for you to use. Lance Mers is with us from Max Lure Company to tell you more about it. Why are you so excited about the Sling Blade?
Versatility, John. You can bend the Sling Blade and change it from a reactionary bite to a normal bite, and it's got so many possibilities.
Not only that, it comes in different sizes. You can use the Sling Blade for everything from trout and kokanee all the way to ocean-going salmon. It's the Sling Blade. Look for it at maxlure.com.
Sportsman's Warehouse is America's premier outfitter and has the quality gear you need for hunting, fishing, camping, and more. Our knowledgeable and friendly staff will help you find the right product so you get the most out of your time in the field or on the water. In addition to stocking superior clothing and outdoor equipment, we offer in-store events and seminars so you can enjoy a successful adventure. With over 70 stores located in the United States, it's easy to find a Sportsman's Warehouse store near you. Find out more at sportsmanswarehouse.com.
Welcome back to Northwestern Outdoors Radio. I'm John Cruz. We've got a real treat for you today. I got the opportunity to meet Jennifer Jarrett. She's with the Acoustic Atlas in Yellowstone National Park, and she was at the Outdoor Writers Association of America Conference in Billings talking about recording sounds at Yellowstone National Park, sounds of nature, and then incorporating those into podcasts. Fascinating stuff. I'm going to play you a sample right here so you get a feeling of exactly what I'm talking about.
When I say top predator of Yellowstone, what's the first thing that pops into your mind? Well, Vincent Spagnuolo has another idea.
They're basically the wolves of the aquatic ecosystem here.
Vincent is a loon biologist with BRI, the Biodiversity Research Institute. He heads up BRI's Common Loon Project in Yellowstone National Park.
They are top predators, and they own that lake.
But in spite of their top predator status, Yellowstone's loons are in trouble. There are only about a dozen breeding pairs left in the park, and they're really isolated. The closest other loons are more than 200 miles away.
Jennifer, that was great stuff. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you so much, John. Thanks for having me.
So, Jennifer, this is really unique what you do here, and I guess we'll start off with, the sounds of nature themselves. This is obviously the centerpiece, and the rest of the podcast is built around it. You also have these audio postcards that are available on the Yellowstone National Park website for people to use, too. How do you go about recording these sounds of nature?
Well, I guess it depends on the time of year and what exactly I'm planning to record. But generally, if it's a species recording, meaning I'm going to be recording birds or mammals, I get up pretty early because that's when those critters tend to be most active, and kind of pack up all my gear and head out in the kind of twilight and head to my recording site and set up and sit or stand very, very quietly. And I do a lot of waiting.
So let's talk about the wolves and the loons that were in this last passage that we just played for our audience. Where were those recorded? What was the story behind those two?
So for the loons, there were a couple different techniques I used to record the loons. Obviously, some of the loon calls that you heard in that piece were recorded while I was up at Wolf Lake with the researchers during the capture attempt. And just before the scientists kind of got going with the work that evening, I deployed a remote recorder, and so I basically cam strapped that to a tree and then left it there for a couple weeks and went back to retrieve it. And so some of the sounds are also from that remote recorder. So that was just for the loons. The wolf howl in the piece that you heard, that howl was recorded in the Lamar Valley, right from the road. And
wow.
That was just a really unique recording experience. The wolves were fairly close. I mean, the mics are very sensitive, and so they kind of have a long reach, so we weren't, right on top of the wolves, but they were pretty close, which doesn't happen all the time. A lot of the times when you're looking for wolves, you end up watching them through a spotting scope, and they're, maybe a mile or two away. But these animals were pretty close, and I just got really, really lucky. I basically stepped out of the car, and I heard howls, and I happened to have the mic with me and set it up, and so one of the wolves was from that recording.
And some of the sounds that you have are not necessarily animal sounds, but they're sounds of nature. You played some sounds, geothermal sounds for lack of a better word, and goodness knows there's lots of that at Yellowstone National Park.
Absolutely. That's one of the things that has kind of surprised me about this work. I've kind of always been an animal lover and was really interested in capturing the sounds of birds and mammals. But once I started to do the recordings of the thermal features, I really got hooked. I mean, they're so amazing, and each one is completely different. You kind of think, oh, a geyser is a geyser is a geyser, but they all kind of have their own personality. They all kind of have their own sound signature, and it's just been really, really fun.
This is amazing. Folks, you're listening to Northwestern Outdoors Radio. We're talking to Jennifer Jarrett, and unfortunately, they're doing construction right outside her office. So if you hear some background noise, that's what you're hearing here. But the sounds that we're really telling you about are not the construction noises. It's the sounds of Yellowstone National Park in terms of nature, both animals and birds, and also some of the environment itself, like the geothermal features we just talked about.
This sort of leads me to think of one of the bigger components of the work that I do, or why it's important, is, you know, we live in this world where we have an abundance of anthropogenic or human-caused noise.
Yes.
And I think we get really used to it, especially for those of us who either grew up in or are living in an urban situation, and we forget just how intrusive those kinds of sounds can be with respect to our natural soundscape. So there was a great example of that.
That is a great example of that. All right, let's get back to these remote audio devices. When you were at the conference and you played something incredible, you had one of these set up near a dead bison, and you actually picked up the sounds of two grizzly bears fighting over the spoils. And speaking of that audio, we've actually got a clip of it for you right here. What are some of the other memorable ones that you've had?
You know, honestly, that really, of all the recordings that I've made, I think that is at the peak. Yeah, I don't think I have anything that compares. It's kind of interesting. It's another bear, kind of grizzly bear vocalization, but a scientist was out and recorded something with his iPhone while they were in the midst of processing a grizzly bear, meaning like collaring it, blood samples, that kind of stuff. And, you know, obviously that wouldn't be a great situation for me to tag along in. Grizzly bears are still an endangered species. You know, you don't want kind of ancillary personnel there. It's a very sensitive thing. And so that was kind of great too, but I mention it because don't forget, you know, the personal recording devices for recording birdsong or other environmental sounds. So for those folks who are interested in getting started in nature recording, you know, the phone can be a great tool. Having said that, it's important to note, you know, don't get too close.
Right.
To wild animals. It's an awesome tool for, like I say, some soundscape stuff for birds, things, you know, situations that are safe, but not great to get close to animals.
I agree. We are starting to run short on time, but before we go, Jennifer, let's steer people towards the website for Yellowstone National Park, where people can hear these podcasts on telemetry, where they can go ahead and hear your audio postcards and also find out about the radio station AM 1610 that airs in Yellowstone National Park.
Sure. So a couple places to go to find the podcasts and postcards. Obviously, you can do that through Yellowstone National Park's website, and that's at nps.gov/YELL. The telemetry podcast itself, you can find that specifically at go.nps.gov/telemetry, or you can find all of these things at the Acoustic Atlas website, and that is at acousticatlas.org.
Jennifer, love what you're doing. Please keep it up, and I hope that sooner or later you'll be able to share this with a wider audience. Thanks for sharing all this with us today on Northwestern Outdoors Radio.
Hey, thanks so much, John. I appreciated being here.
You demand quality performance from your binoculars, whether you use them in the field, on the water, or at a stadium. But you don't want to spend a fortune. That's where the BX McKenzie binoculars from Leupold come in. These armored, waterproof binoculars are both comfortable and dependable. Look for your McKenzie binoculars at quality sporting goods retailers near you, to include your Cabela's, Sportsman's Warehouse, or Northwest Bi-Mart stores. BX McKenzie, bringing your world into sharper focus only from Leupold.
The road is calling you to experience one of Oregon's 7 wonders, the Wallowas. So grab your camping equipment and fishing gear and head out to Northeast Oregon, where you'll find the views are endless, the air crisp and clean, and the water's cold and clear. Set up camp by the shores of Wallowa Lake or in the heart of the Wallowa-Whitman National Forest. Take your fishing gear and cast your bait into the deep waters of Wallowa Lake, or roll your fly into one of the eddies of the many freestone creeks and rivers teeming with fish. This summer, take the road that leads to wonders. It begins at WallowaCountyChamber.com.
Looking for a quality fishing adventure that won't break the bank? Then head to Canada for an all-inclusive fishing vacation with Chad's Coastwide Sports Fishing. Big salmon, halibut, snapper, and lingcod are waiting for you off Vancouver Island. But space is limited, so book now at coastwidesportsfishing.com. That's coastwidesportsfishing.com.
Welcome back to Northwestern Outdoors Radio. We're broadcasting from, well, quite frankly, one of the nicest places we've ever broadcast from. It's Lost Lake. It's in the Beartooth Mountains near Red Lodge, Montana. Just hiked up here with several outdoors riders, and our guide, so to speak, is Lisa Densmore, who just finished her term as president of the Outdoor Writers Association of America. Lisa, thank you so much for taking us on this spectacular hike.
Well, you're very welcome. This is one of my favorite places in the universe, too.
Well, let's tell people, first off, how to get here, because it was really easy to get to the trailhead. It wasn't a big deal at all, and the payoff has been spectacular. So we'll start at Red Lodge, Montana, south of Billings. Once you're in town, where do you go from there to get to this trailhead?
So from Red Lodge, you basically head south. You keep heading south out of town as if you're going over the Beartooth Highway into Yellowstone National Park. But before you actually get to the base of the highway and start climbing, there's a road that goes off to the right called the Lake Fork Road, and you just follow that to the end and you're at the trailhead. The Lake Fork refers to the Lake Fork of Rock Creek. The Lake Fork is basically called the Lake Fork because there are many of these beautiful hanging tarns off this particular string of the creek.
Well, let's go ahead and take our listeners up the trail. What I loved about this 5-mile hike to Lost Lake was there wasn't a single switchback. We gained some elevation, but it was all like a gentle climb, and right when you started to get winded, one of two things would happen. Either the trail would flatten out for a little bit so you can get your breath back, or you'd have one of these spectacular, I've got to stop and take 20 pictures views.
One of the things about hiking in the Beartooth is you can get into very steep, gnarly things, but in general, the more popular trails have a grade just like that. They're a very easy grade that's at a very nice pace. You're climbing, you're gaining elevation, but it's not so steep that you're feeling winded and exhausted the whole way. Also, with that hike, as you noticed, there are many places where you can turn around. So if you get 3 miles into it and you're not at the lake, but you're getting really tired and you don't think you can make the whole trip, you find this great spot by the creek and you can fish, you can take in the view, you can soak your feet. It's beautiful, and there's many places to bail out, so to speak.
Well, there is, but you've got to at least go the 3.5 miles to Broadwater Lake. It's actually just a wide part of Lake Creek, but again, it's a spectacular place. That's a wide spot there in the creek. There's nice places to soak your feet, and there's some brook trout in there too.
So if you're an angler, there are 3 different species you can fish for on this hike. You can catch rainbow trout, you can catch brook trout in the actual creek itself. Once you get up to Lost Lake is known for Yellowstone cutthroat trout.
And I'm going to talk about that because, folks, I did get a nice brookie out of Broadwater there and had several more strikes, but I'll be honest, I wanted to get up here to Lost Lake, so I didn't tarry there. It's another 1.5 miles past Broadwater Lake to get to Lost Lake, but when you get here, the payoff is spectacular in a lot of different ways. And the Yellowstone cutthroat, the very first one I caught, was 15, 16, maybe 18 inches long. By the time I get back to the car, it'll probably be 20 to 22 inches long, but I'll tell you what, it was the biggest cutthroat trout I've ever caught in Alpine Lake. Absolutely beautiful fish.
It's amazing how they get bigger the farther
They always do.
Yeah, actually, the fish here in this lake, they aren't super big, and you won't catch really big trout in this particular drainage, partly because this lake's only without ice for maybe 2 months out of the year. So you got to realize that these fish, they're only really avidly feeding and getting hatches off the water for about 2 months out of the year, maybe 3. They also can eat little microscopic crustaceans, but they do, as it cools off, go into a state of torpor. And when I say cool cool off, it's all relative. If you stick your feet in that lake, it's chilly.
It is, but it feels really good. And just about everybody in our party has indeed stuck their feet in the lake after that 5-mile hike on this summer Montana day. But again, the lake itself, just gorgeous. You have, this huge cliff that's on one side of the lake. And is this a certain mountain or mountain range in particular that overlooks us?
So it's quite interesting. As we were hiking up here, everybody kept saying, what's that peak? What's that peak? And these are not actually mountaintops. This is part of a ridge line. But there are many, many mountains here. The highest mountain in Montana is in this range. We're in the Beartooth Absaroka Wilderness. And Granite Peak, which is over 14,000 feet, is very close to where we are here. It's in the East Rosebud Drainage. But we are in big mountains. If you were to get on a mountaintop here, you'd be well over 10,000 feet. You'd be more like 11 to 12,000 feet.
Well, there you go, folks. Everything's big in Montana. The sky and even the ridge lines. You're listening to Northwestern Outdoors Radio. I'm John Cruz. We're talking to outdoors writer Lisa Densmore. She's actually written quite a few hiking books, and we're talking to her about this wonderful hike to Lost Lake. One of the things I want to mention here, you've got a real opportunity to see some wildlife. I understand if you do look towards these ridge lines, you might be in for a treat.
So for wildlife here, just sitting here at Lost Lake, the odds are pretty high if you look up in the rocks that you will catch something white that's moving versus still, which is snow. If it's moving, it's probably a mountain goat. There are mountain goats around here. There are also a lot of bighorns in this particular wilderness area. The bighorns are probably not in this particular drainage. They're in very specific spots. But if we get lucky, once in a while they'll wander over, say that green spot over there, and you might see some bighorns. But this area is known more for its mountain goats.
One thing that people do need to be aware of, though, and this is the reason we're all carrying bear spray, is that there's a lot of bear activity around here, and there's a sign posted on the trailhead sign saying that as well.
So with a group of people where you're talking and making noise, the odds are pretty low that you're going to see a grizzly bear. But there are grizzlies in every drainage in the Beartooth. Actually, it's called the Bear's Tooth, not because of a bear. Actually, it's because there's a rock formation that looks like the tooth of a bear, but they are in this drainage. And it actually is proof, living proof really, about the recovery of grizzly bears and how well they're doing in this area. So we are always cautious. We always bring pepper spray with us. You just want to be bear aware and know that they're around.
Very good idea. We're starting to run short on time, but let's go ahead and tease our listeners with maybe a couple of other hikes in this area they might want to consider. What are a couple of other popular destinations with great payoffs like this one?
Well, I'll give you two. If you like to fish for brook trout, there's a hike up to what's called Timberline Lake, which is also a very lovely day hike, and you end up in a beautiful mountain tarn like this. We actually very rarely hike to mountain tops here. It's mostly to these lakes where you can fish. So Timberline Lake for brook trout, and if you want to go for the gold standard, literally golden trout, Sylvan Lake out of the East Rosebud.
Okay, sounds wonderful to me. Now, I know you write articles about hiking here in Montana. I know you've written several guidebooks about hiking back in the Northeast. Can people access all of this information off your website?
They can access a lot of it. So the best book is actually called Hiking the Beartooth, and I didn't write it. It's by Bill Schneider. Bill,
by the way, folks, most writers don't say this when given the opportunity to promote themselves on the radio. You are a class act. Bill Schneider, if you're listening, you should buy her a drink or more. All right, so let's go back to Bill Schneider's book instead of yours.
All right, so if you want to go in the Beartooth, buy Bill's book. If you're coming to the Adirondacks, the White Mountains in New Hampshire, or if you're in the Green Mountains of Vermont, then buy my books.
Let's give out a website so people can find out more about hiking with you, Lisa.
My website is lisadensmore.com.
That's lisadensmore.com. lisadensmore.com is the website. She knows all about hiking back east and around Red Lodge, Montana as well. Check it out. If you ever get a chance to go hiking with her, I'm sure you'll enjoy it like we have. Lisa, thank you so much for a great day, and thanks for sharing this with our listeners on Northwestern Outdoors Radio.
Thanks, John.
Stehekin Valley Ranch may well be the most spectacular place to visit in the lower 48. Located at the headwaters of Lake Chelan in Washington's North Cascades, we can only be reached by boat, plane, or foot. Stehekin takes you back to simple pleasures and adventures. Hike, fish, kayak, ride a horse, or just relax while soaking in the views. You can do it all at our family-owned ranch. Book your summer stay now at StehekinValleyRanch.com. That's StehekinValleyRanch.com.
A quality and affordable fishing adventure is waiting for you off Vancouver Island with Chad's Coast-Wide Sports Fishing. Located in Port Hardy, British Columbia, you can drive or fly to your all-inclusive guided fishing vacation. Whether you're after big salmon, heart-fighting halibut, or a cooler full of red snapper and lingcod, you can catch it all here. Better yet, your lodging, meals, and fish processing are all taken care of. Want one more reason to go? The price. With the Canadian dollar exchange rate where it is right now, your U.S. dollar goes further. Space is limited, so go to coastwidesportsfishing.com to book your trip. That's coastwidesportsfishing.com for an incredible BC fishing adventure.
Want to go fishing and make money? You are in luck. This year's Pike Minnow Sport Reward Fishery kicks off May 1st. Just register at a check station and go fishing for 9-inch or longer northern pike minnow within designated waters of the Columbia or Snake River. Then you bring your fish back and collect a voucher good for a cash reward. The more fish you catch, the more they're worth. $5, $6, and $8 per fish. Catch a pike minnow with a special tag and you've landed $500. Find out more at pikeminnow.org. That's pikeminnow.org.
Backcountry Hunters and Anglers, a nationwide group working to keep public lands in public hands so future generations can enjoy what we enjoy. Join the group that makes a difference. Check us out at backcountryhunters.org.
Sportsman's Warehouse is America's premier outfitter and has the quality gear you need for hunting, fishing, camping, and more. Our knowledgeable and friendly staff will help you find the right product so you get the most out of your time in the field or on the water. In addition to stocking superior clothing and outdoor equipment, we offer in-store events and seminars so you can enjoy a successful adventure. With over 70 stores located in the United States, it's easy to find a Sportsman's Warehouse store near you. Find out more at sportsmanswarehouse.com.
One more time this week for Northwestern Outdoors Radio with John Cruz.
Welcome back. Hey, before we go, I want to tell you about the two organizations that gave us these Excellence in Craft Awards. The first one is the Outdoor Writers Association of America. It's comprised of 800 people that are all media professionals. We are talking about people that are writers, photographers, bloggers, podcasters, broadcasters like myself, people who produce video for TV and the internet, and more. The other organization is the Northwest Outdoor Writers Association. Same principle, same sort of people, but it's at a regional level. Whereas the Outdoor Writers Association of America is an international organization comprised of members from both America and Canada. The Northwest Outdoor Writers Association finds its membership based in Oregon, Washington, Idaho, Montana, as well as British Columbia and Alaska. Both organizations have annual conferences. In 2016, they were in Billings. In 2017, they were in Duluth. As for the Northwest Outdoor Writers Association, in 2016, they were at the Diamond Lake Resort in Oregon. In 2017, they were in Sandpoint, Idaho. And in 2018, at the end of April, they'll be in Choteau, Montana. Now, why am I telling you about these organizations? Well, I'll tell you why. If you have any interest in any of these pursuits, whether it be in the writing or photography or video or audio production and broadcasting, I'd encourage you to join. You can join as an apprentice member with no previously published pieces. You can join as an associate member who has got some stuff under your belt, but maybe you're not right up to the full-fledged membership level yet. Or you can join as a full-fledged member. If you want more details, go to the websites of both organizations. If you have any questions after checking out those websites, get a hold of me. Be happy to tell you more about them. How can you do that? Through our website, of course, at northwesternoutdoors.com. Just go to the Contact Us page. Shoot me a note. Say you want to find out more about OWAA or NOWA, and I'd be happy to chat with you about either organization. Before we go, we've got to give you your Sportsman's Warehouse Trivia Question of the Week. You didn't think we'd forget about that, now did you? Here it is. Everyone loves baby birds, right? After all, ducks have ducklings, geese have goslings, and swans have cygnets. But what about those loons we were talking about earlier in the show? What, pray tell, is a baby loon called? If you know what you call a baby loon, let me know. You can do so through our website at northwesternoutdoors.com. Just go to the Contact Us page, or through our Facebook page. Just look for Northwestern Outdoors Radio. Like our page, find the post, give us your answer there. One lucky person who guesses right will win the gift card we give away from America's premier outfitter every week, Sportsman's Warehouse. Couple of other websites to check out would include the WRVO radio site. We air there. So does our sister show. You'll find that at RenoViolaOutdoors.com. And our sister show is America Outdoors Radio. The website to find out more about that one, including stations and airtimes near you, is AmericaOutdoorsRadio.com. Last but not least, I'd like to thank the guests that made this show possible and these awards possible too. Steve Fleming with Maha Outfitters out of Fossil, Oregon. Jennifer Jarrett, who works with the Acoustic Atlas in Yellowstone National Park. Lisa Densmore Ballard, a fantastic outdoors writer based in Red Lodge, Montana. And Chad Calder, the owner of Chad's Coastwide Sports Fishing. Check out what they're doing. Give them your support. They're great people. We've got to go. But until next time, take care, God bless, and make it a point to spend some time outdoors.